my family living better, and I'll be here. I still love my country. I still have this flag, and I'll still, you know, go to protests if something's going bad or whatever. But they don't need me there. And it's absolutely understood, and I don't blame people who do that because it's normal. I think I would have done the same because it's, you know, it's like you're alone. So you come back, and what happens? Suddenly you distrust the government. You also distrust other people because you just think that you're alone and everybody else is different. They just don't understand you. And finally, you become so disappointed and, you know, unconfident that you start distrusting yourself. So you think, I'm also not the guy, not the kind of person who can do this stuff. And these three things are incorrect. Because the problem is that when you're alone, or you don't know people, other people, a lot of people who think like yourself, you always will have this kind of distrust. So we need many of you, not like 5 people, not 3 persons, not 10. We need thousands. We need probably dozens of thousands. We need so many people, so you personally know 100 like yourself, with good education, with different mindset, ready to fight, ready to take self-responsibility. And when you have that, you are, like, you know, you're there, like multiples, like 10 times, tenfold. And you say, okay, come on, I'll come back. I don't know if they accept me. Either they accept me, or if they not, we're so many, so we'll form some new civil, you know, or you know, even political movement, and we're gonna change it ourselves. You don't want us, guys, we'll come and change it. But in order to do that, you need to have a lot of these people. So my main idea is, and I'll come to that at the very end. So one of the main ideas is to create a so-called, I call it educational Marshall Plan for Ukraine. And at the very end of my speech, I will probably touch it a little bit briefly, and probably if you have a question on that, I'll talk about that later. So, once again, to change something in the country, we need 2 different currents, and 2 different, you know, 2 different currents, top down and bottom up. If only we have 2 of them, and in the point when they change, when they meet each other, there you have this chain reaction. There you have, at that very point, you'll see how the changes start happening. And only at that point, when top-down and bottom-up movement are together, they create enormous energy. It's like chain reaction in nuclear or nuclear split of the atom or thermonuclear synthesis. It's something like that. You just need 2 of them. Otherwise, it's not going to work. But let me focus a little bit on both of these movements. Let me, before that, say that we need to change not only the approach of, like, you know, the paradigm of changes, not thinking only of top-down changes, but start thinking of bottom-up. But we also need to change what I call our attitude to Ukraine, and how we feel Ukraine, how we perceive Ukraine, and how we treat these changes in a country at all. So I have 5. Unfortunately, we don't have. I'm not using PowerPoint. I'm a very old-fashioned guy. So I can do that, but I didn't have enough time for having PowerPoint presentation, and I don't have a board. Which is strange because, you know, like here we have boards in every room. Probably you are like 22nd century university. So I would have pointed them, I would have put them down, but I don't have. So you need to either, you know, learn it some by heart or just, you know, remember them. So these are 5 points of this new approach. I state our leaders don't have, and they need to have, and also like civil society as a whole. I'm not talking about some special people who are, and I think that some of them are here in this audience as well, to have, but generally people don't think in this framework. So first, we need to stop thinking of Ukraine as in terms of past. And we need to start thinking of Ukraine in the terms of the future. What does it mean? It means that we always think of Ukrainians as of people who are somehow connected or united with the idea of a common past. We all say that we have, like, common ancestors. Some say we have common culture. Some say we have common language. Some say we have common history. But you know what? Today Ukraine, being a country what it is, it has no common history. Because we have like at least 2 or probably 3 histories, and you all know that. We have 2 common languages in Ukraine, not 1, and we know that because we have so many Ukrainians, pure patriots, who just happen to speak, Russian, and it's their mother tongue, and these are also Ukrainians. So that's not this is not the thing that unites us. We have different, cultural, not significant, but some differences. We even have different attitude to the same historical events. Talk about World War II. This is the only issue that divides country easily, like this. So any external enemy can operate easily with this kind of society, the things of past. Actually, Ukraine as a country, as a nation, Ukraine exists of 1,000 years, probably 1,000 years, or like 700 years, something like. I prefer to think that we start from Kiev Rus. But as a state, as a political state, we're only 25 years. And if we say that we had some history of state, we didn't. We actually had many attempts. Some of them were good, heroic. But actually, Ukraine as a recognizable country, with the name of Ukraine, never existed in the world map before 1991 and after Mongol Tatars destroyed Kiev Rus. Destroyed Kiev capital. We had many things. We had Cossack Republic, we were thinking, we had some short periods in 1917, 1918. It's good, and I certainly accept it, and I'm like, I value that. But let's talk about serious, exact, and serious things. And let's not, create some things in the past when we can have much better idea. Let's organize a country as a society united by a common future, which is much more easier to, if you want to say, to sell to the external world. I don't yet like this word, but you understand what I mean. It's more like today you can sell it easier to the external world, because we have a big country, a territory of a vastly, enormously rich country with a good soil, with nice, intelligent people, with a literally very high level of basic education. You see how strong Ukrainian image in IT industry is in the world today. Although the government does nothing for supporting that. It's just private efforts of people. So we have land, we have brains, we have so many, we have more than 40 million people committed to do something good for themselves. So why don't we organize all these people and their energy and saying, let's talk about this country, not about the country we had in the past, or not about history or language or on traditions or habits, which is good, which all of them are important, but that's not something that brings us from point A today to point B. We need to create something new. And I want to remind you that there are many countries in the world, starting from the country we are in, like United States of America. You can name many other countries like India, like Singapore, like many countries which were based not on the idea of a nation with common habits, language, or culture, but in a nation with common values and common ideas in the future. They don't even speak one language like Singapore or India. We talk about India like one of the greatest countries today in the world, but do you know that it never existed as a country before Gandhi and Nehru created it at the end of 40s of the previous century? So we had British colony of India, which was also extended to Bangladesh, Pakistan, and many other countries. It was colony that, But before that, before Brits came there were many small, what they say, rajas, and like many small communities, many kingdoms or counties, which interacted. Suddenly they had common languages, some of them even didn't. They had common culture, some of them didn't. Many of them didn't understand each other, but the guys came and created a new country, where they have 100 languages, where they have like at least 3 big religions, like even 4 religions which I can remind, like Hindu, like Sikhs, like Jainas, like Muslims, and only 4. And then you have Buddhists and many other people, and Christians living there. So this country never existed as a state, but now it's one of the biggest in the world. So what is it? You know, you need to, the wisdom of the guys who created this country, the founders, was they were thinking of future. Yes, at the beginning they had very tough moments, and that's why they split it into a couple of countries, and that's why we have Bangladesh and Pakistan separately from India. Gandhi's idea was to have it a big one country, so they didn't succeed. But at least they have a good result now. So my idea is to, like, you know, stop thinking of past as a, like, you know, as a basic unified, you know, approach, and think of future the basic unified approach. I always say that past, we always mix up past and memory, because memory is very important. Memory is our knowledge, and memory is a torch on the way to our future and prosperity. When past is a burden we carry in our backpack when climbing somewhere. These are 2 different things. We always mix up past and memory. So remember, always remember, but never be stuck by past. This is what we need today. I emphasize on remembering in order like just to not to be convicted that I just, you know, always refuse to think of like past at all. No, I think the past is an important thing, but not focus on that and not stay on that. Stay in your future, or just in order, I would say, like try to reach out this future. Just extend yourself. That's what we need. The society needs to expand ourselves. Just try to reach it out. The second thing, be aware of your geography. Ukraine, as any country in the world, has its own geography. We are there. We can't move Ukraine into the Pacific coast or Atlantic coast. We probably could have had possibilities like 1,000 years ago, but not now. And I'm not asking you to do that. So we are where we are. And that means that all our, you know, neighbors, all countries, they probably will be there tomorrow as well as they are today. So that means don't build, you know, a childish, playground style approach to politics. You know, each neighbor we have requires its own approach, and we need to find this approach. We can't say just we like this neighbor or we don't like this neighbor, because, like, you know, it doesn't matter. Both of them, they are there, whether you like them or not. So try to think what to do, and not think, okay, we don't recognize somebody, or like we don't see them, because they will see them if you don't see them. And they will come one day and you will do nothing because you will be not ready for that. So that brings me to the third point, which is absolutely, you know, it's funny because they've been telling us all the time for 15 years, for 25 years probably, or like for first 15 years in policy, that the thing I'm going to talk about now is something that they do, but they actually never did. So this is said, like, you know, I will quote Lord Palmerston, who was a Prime Minister of Queen Victoria, the first part of 19th century, who had a famous quote that Britain has no permanent enemies and Britain has no permanent foes, permanent friends. Britain has only permanent interests. So that's something that Ukraine needs to implement. Don't think of other countries, like of some good and bad guys. You don't have bad and good guys, you have useful guys. I'm sorry, but it's something you don't have in private relationship. When you have a family or friends, there is different. But with countries, when you start talking in the framework of friends and enemies, that's a very dangerous thing, and Ukraine already has big problems with that. We should never do that. Because the best countries and the biggest countries and the most successful, prosperous countries in the world always managed and were able to find this right way to handle the foreign relations and global affairs in the way that is suitable for them. I always put it in a funny, let's say, once again, paradoxical thing. If some other country is happy in what you're doing, then there will be another country that is always unhappy with what you're doing. And you'll create that kind of win, because when you have warm and cold, you always can win. So the very good example of that you're doing right stuff for your country is if everybody is unhappy of what you're doing. No, I'm serious. Sometimes you do something that is not like you know, everybody is a little bit unhappy, not too much, not infuriated, not like, you know, touched seriously and starting to defend their own interests, but just not very happy. But you know, that means that you do something unique for your country, that your country will be happy with. You need to remember that. Then the fourth thing, our you know, civil society and our leaders never rely on is the thing I started to talk at the very beginning. This is this bottom-up movement and a robust civil society. We need to build robust civil society, and that should be all efforts of, you know, of all responsible people should be focused on this civil society. Without robust civil society, and by civil society I mean 10–15% of people who care. We have in every country, in America, in Ukraine, in name it, we have only 10–15% of the population who always care. So these 10–15%, which people, sociologists call civil society, we need to make it robust and powerful. Not having